So nice to see everybody. So go ahead, have a seat on the floor. As Tristan's demonstrating right now. Cross the shins in front of you. Sliding the feet and shins forward so the thighs actually lift up a little bit. Don't pull the heels close to the hip and groin. Slide them forward, flex the feet. Place the hands on your thighs, lift your chest up nice and tall, taking a nice deep breath in. Drop the shoulders as you exhale. Keep the lift to the spine. Press the hands down again, lift the spine up more. Taking a nice deep breath in as you exhale. Squeeze your back ribs towards each other. Stretch your side ribs forward and your front ribs up. So you got the big lifted chest, drop your shoulders. Keep the rib cage lifted. Keep your chin lifted slightly. Let your eyes close for a few moments. So as you sit here with your eyes closed for that internal journaling moment, we sit here and begin like this, not just to honor the meditative side of the tradition, but to, as my teacher would say, get the juices flowing. Begin to jumpstart the creative process in ourselves, because yoga is creation. We're changing things about ourselves. We're creating new things in and for ourselves. So that should start on the internal process, not just the external. So with each deep breath in, slow breath out for a few moments, hands resting on your thighs or on your knees, the eyes closed. Maybe look back at your day, at what you've done, what you've accomplished. And how did those things enrich you? Did you go work out so you know, and how did that help? Did you eat a nice meal? Did you do things that did not enrich you? Always being aware of the things you do and how they affect you are one of the biggest tenets in the practice of yoga. So as you sit for a minute or two and go through your day, how did something enrich you? And ultimately, if you come across something that did happen that did not, be aware of it, because it had an effect on you. Because everything we go through has an effect on us. Just as when we go through the yoga practice, it gives us a little more flexibility, a little more strength, balance, range of motion. We learn a little bit more about ourselves. Look at the whole of your day and ultimately the whole of your life and the practice that you've been doing there. Practice of cooking, practice of loving, of driving, of gardening, whatever it is. As we become more aware of how these things enrich us, we ultimately gain more control about how we choose to let things enrich us or change us. As Mr. Iyengar would say, we do not stay connected and tethered to the habits of the past. But we obtain ultimate freedom. Take a nice deep breath in, bring the palms together at the chest, thumbs touching the sternum. Shoulders still down away from the ears, ribs lifted. Eyes closed, chin lifted. Blow them shortly 3 times and begin. Take a nice deep breath in. Bow your head for a moment. Salute the essence of yoga inside yourself. And if you don't know what that may be, you don't have your own limerick or mantra or prayer or idea or song or word to describe it, may I offer that your life is never stuck, static, or stale. You're in the ever-evolving change of life yourself. Bring your hands into the lap, let the head rise, and the eyes open. So nice to see everybody. Hope everyone's been doing well. Stand up, do some more. So stand up on your yoga mat in Tadasana, please. Tadasana is the big toes touching, thighs together, heels together. Feet together, heels touching, big toes touching, calves touching. Trying to squeeze the thighs together to create a tight center line of the body, not gripping up in the groin, but flexing the large thigh muscle between the knee and the hip. Squeeze it in. Same on the calf, between the knee and the heel. Squeeze it in. Lift all 10 toes up off the floor for a moment. As you lift all 10 toes up off the floor, let your weight of your body redistribute equally across the heel and the front 5 joints of the foot. Keep your toes up. Notice how the foot has to flex a little bit to do this. The thighs have to stay engaged. And try to maintain that engagement, right? In the meditative moment, it's being aware of how the things we do affect us. Yoga is the layers and layers of magnifying glass to see how the different pieces, aspects, and parts of a pose affect us. Eventually, to pick and choose what we need to enrich and move our life in the direction we ultimately see good, or being guided by whatever rule set, forces, spiritual system that's yours. So as you squeeze the calf thigh in, keep the toes lifted. How much are you trying to do from your shoulder, neck, or hands? Can you drop the shoulder? Can you keep the upper body lifted, the shoulders wide, and the thighs strong? And then place your big toes on the floor and keep every other toe lifted. Try not to look down. Feel your body. Don't just have to see your body. Pay attention to other things. Did your feet change on the floor when you dropped your big toe? Keep trying to keep all the others lifted. Did the hands grip? Lift your big toe up. Place your pinky toe down. Notice how the leg changed when that happened. Did the knees want to roll out? Can you keep them pointed forward? Can you still squeeze each calf and thigh together equally? All right, place your big toe and pinky toe down and keep the middle 3 toes lifted. Oh, don't look. Try to just feel what's going on in your body. One of the things I think it's easy to describe in the yoga practice is that in the beginning, there's a lot of feeling. A lot of stretching, cramping, muscle ache, discovering your balance is different, or interesting perceptions and feelings, physical feelings about the body. That's just to get you going, right? So notice as you still try to lift the middle 3 toes and stretch the outer 2 down, it can happen. Just takes a little bit of practice. Try not to do it with your hands, your shoulders, your neck. The center, the legs still coming together, the center body, upper torso lifted. Go ahead and stretch both arms straight up, palms facing in for Hastasana. Bring the palms together above your head. Do not interlace or cross the fingers or thumbs. Just bring the palms together, fingers touching, fingers straight, and straighten the elbows, squeezing the elbow towards the head. That does not mean cramp your neck, but straighten the elbow, squeezing the bicep towards your head, so you feel the side body have to lengthen in doing so. More. Push your palms together as hard as you can and lift up from the ribs, stretching not back. This isn't about taking your arms behind you, but can you stretch up through the side body to go a little taller? So you're not just pushing your front ribs up and out, but you're lifting your back body too. Then pay attention to the lower part of the body that you might have let go of. Are your toes still trying to do the work? Are your foot and ankles still flexed and lifted? Are your calves still coming together? Are your thighs still coming together? So you see the complexity or difficulty is not how much, strength or power or upside down the pose gets, right? Or those poses we think of the really hard advanced ones. The more you start paying attention to how different parts of your body move in this pose, Tadasana, the most basic, the more focus it takes, the more discipline, the more determination. And you make even something that is quote unquote simple, very challenging. Straighten the elbows any degree, push the palms tight together. We're going to be here a while. The more you try to straighten the elbows and squeeze the bicep towards the head, the more you're going to work the shoulder, the arm. And when you push the palms together, can you push all of the palm together, not just the heel of the hands or the tips of the fingers, but the whole flat of the palm down the whole length of the finger? And breathe. And feel it. The longer you look at something, the more you understand it. Especially when it puts you under some level of strain or duress, you really get to see how you work with it. Now that this has been happening for a couple minutes, what's the mental attitude? What's the change when you're challenged? You want to just get out of the pose? You're frustrated? You hope your internet cuts out any moment so you can get out of class? That's mental awareness. That's kind of confronting your own, as my teacher would say, your own chitti vrittis. And they're good at hiding. So when you get challenged, then you get to see the internal process. Push your thighs together. Push your thighs back a little bit. All right, take a nice deep breath in. Exhale. I didn't say bring your arms down, I just said exhale. Some of you were holding your breath. Another 30 seconds. Just recognize that. How much did you anticipate just the permission to let go when you're breathing? Right, because you've probably been in a lot of yoga classes where that's how teachers tell you to get out of a pose. On your exhale, bring the arms down. Keep the legs active. Fold forward, take your fingertips onto the floor in front of you. Uttanasana, standing forward stretch. If you cannot reach the floor because you're tight in the hamstrings, hips, there's back pain, feel free to put your hands on blocks, a chair, whatever you need to have some height. But I would like for you to straighten the legs as best you can. So it's more important to use something under the hands if your body's tight than it is to bend the knee and force yourself downward. Lift all 10 toes back up. At one point during all that, the toes came out of the pose. Re-engage them. So when you lift all 10 toes, feel the flex of the foot, the arch, how the calves have to work a little bit more. Place the big toes on the floor and the pinky toes on the floor. Keep everything else up. Now you can look at it. You're down there. And then once you can kind of start working with that, try to stretch your legs a little longer. Push the thigh bones back. Stretch the knee a little longer, moving the inner knee back. Take a nice deep breath. Bend your knees so your belly touches your thigh bones. And when you bend your knees, you can keep your fingertips on the floor or on your blocks for balance. Squeeze the legs tight together again. And it's not sitting down completely like you were in an invisible chair, but when you bend the knees, lean back slightly. So you're trying to keep your knees above your heels, and you're having to use your greater part of your leg strength to hold you up. So you're not leaning forward into the hands, but you're putting your weight into the back side, the hips. Grab your big toes with your hands if you can. If you can't, you can feel free to grab your shin, ankle, calf, anywhere on the leg. Take a nice deep breath, and as you exhale, pull your nose down towards your shin bone, keeping the knees very bent. So you get a stretch to the upper back part of this. Forward folds stretch the upper back a lot, stretch the mid back a lot. But if we're just very locked up in the lower back or in the hip, they don't give that over time. So we variate it like this so you get some of that work. So when you pull with your hands, pulling your nose towards your shin, your knees bent, your belly to your thighs together if you can. So you get this intense amount of leg work. Your back gets tired. Jaya, bend your knees more, dear. Thank you. Now pull your nose to your shin. It's more important to pull the nose towards the shin than it is to straighten the legs. I've not asked for that. Stop trying to force something that's not the lesson now. That's old habits. My teacher would say, you're not here to learn them. You're here to do your thing and tell me what yoga is. But, you know, Mr. Iyengar was very sharp. Actively pull your nose towards the shin with the neck. Stop trying to lift it up. If you keep trying to lift your head up, that tells me how tight your upper back and shoulders are. Keep the knees bent. Stretch both arms straight out in front of you. Keep the knees bent. Pick the chest straight up, the arms up, Uttanasana, chair pose. Look up. Pick the arms up as high as you can. You're trying to sit upright in the pose, so you have to challenge your back into the backward bend. You have to squeeze the legs tight. All right, stand on up. Palms back together. Palms flat. Arms up in the air. Urdhva Hastasana again. Back where you started. Second pose. Palms nice and tight. Legs active. Feel the difference in your body now that your legs are a little more tired. Feel where the pressure in your foot is. Take a nice deep breath in. On your exhale, fold forward. Take your hands back to the floor. So here, just Uttanasana, standing forward stretch. Grab your big toes, one in each hand if you can. If you can't, that's okay to keep your hands on the pravs. Everyone bend your knees again so your belly touches your thigh. Again, pull with the arms, pull your nose towards your shin bone. So it's an active lengthening. You're using the shoulder, head, and neck to stretch the upper back. And when you do this, it will make your legs work much harder. And breathe. Your second time in the pose, then you really get to feel some more of it. You're past the initial force. Now you have to actually do the pose with a little more awareness of how hard you're pushing, where you're working. To save energy, don't work the things that don't matter. So if you're gripping your neck or gripping your fingers super hard or gripping in your stomach, let go of that. Work your thighs. Pull your nose towards your shin. Use your arms a little bit to help. Remember what I said before in the meditative practice. Get the juices flowing. Be aware of what you do to yourself. So then you get to ultimately choose what you do to yourself and how you get effects. So the only thing I've asked here is knees bent, thighs tight, holding on to the foot or the leg, and pull your nose to your shin. What else have you tried to do other than that? Take both palms flat to the floor. Walk your hands out in front of you along the length of your yoga mat. Turn so you can do downward dog. Walk the feet back into down dog. You're okay. That's fine. Walk your feet back first. So Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Chaya, step wider, dear. Come on, longer, Chaya. Thank you, dear. So even here in this pose, now that your body weight is more distributed between the hands and feet, you get to work other muscles differently. So try to pick your heels up off of the floor as high as you can. So it's not about stretching your calf or heel down right now. Don't worry about that. Your hamstrings want to work more. We'll work them. But right now it's about engaging into the pose. I'm not worried about I'm not worried about flexibility. Flexibility will happen as you do yoga. But the more you engage muscles to flex, stretch, and then move into it, you will get more results from all of your yoga. Instead of I just stretched one muscle, I moved everything. Yoga is a whole body practice. So bend your knees again while in down dog. Push your palms into the floor. Push your chest bone towards your thigh. Bend your knees until that can be true. So it might be a very deep bend to the knee for some of us. But you're trying to touch your stomach to your thigh bone again, just like you did in the forward fold. Now you have to use your arms to help push your chest and your core muscles into it. Don't lock your hands in places. Don't be afraid to bend the knees fairly deep for this. And then squeeze the legs towards each other. If your feet are apart, your knees probably won't touch, but squeeze the thighs towards each other. So it's like a twisting the knees in. So you widen the hip and just hold. Bend the knees, Micah. Come on. Notice the longer you're in it, the more your knees want to straighten because your joints do the greater work. Your legs get tired. Your hips get tired here. Your back gets tired. That's okay. What's the effect of that? Being challenged in those muscles. Happy, sad, anger, fear, emotions come up, thoughts come up. Be aware of these things. Yoga is a practice of awareness, not of numbness. All right, step your hands up, or step your feet up between your hands again. Back to the forward fold, back to Uttanasana. Legs nice and straight to start. So blocks, chair, whatever you need for your hands. Take some nice breaths here. This becomes the pose where you get a little bit of relief. The knees aren't bent, right? So you felt the strength of your legs be challenged in those bent knees. How can you apply that strength here with the legs are straight without it making it about the knee joint? So flex your thighs the same way they were when they were bent. Don't worry, we're going to go back to the bent knee stuff. You're going to get a chance to remember. But even here with your legs are straight, can you still flex the front thigh muscles? Can you engage them to be strong? So even to help lift the hips, the length of the leg. Bend your knees again. Take your palms to the floor. Down dog. hips going back and forth between the series of these few poses just to get you moving. Complexity does not have to, like I said before, be because you're trying some extraordinarily rarely taught pose, right? You're not having to try and twist yourself in a pretzel. It's that how much more do you put yourself into it that it becomes complex. Pick your heels up off the floor, bend your knees deeply, moving your chest bone, your belly towards your thigh again. So the back, the shoulders, all of that has to work more. Hips pushing up, knees bent. See the fatigue and the challenge that causes in the legs. Squeeze the knees towards each other. Last few seconds, thighs tight, hips in the air, knees deeply bent, legs getting tired. Step your right foot up between your hands. So with the left leg straight behind you, the right foot up between the hand, the right knee bent, you take some of the work out of the pose because your base is wider, one knee is bent, one leg is straight, and now weight is distributed asymmetrically. Whereas the last poses were symmetrical. Now becomes a little trickier thing. Can I get each part of my body to engage and work the pose, even though they're different? So the right knee is nice and deeply bent, so the hips come down. Step your left foot back farther. Your left leg is nice and long. It's actively lifted. Don't just push your knee up, but think about your front thigh muscle. You remember those muscles that are probably very achy and tired for all of you right now, those front leg muscles. Use them, especially on the back leg, to keep it lifted, like you're lifting the bottom of your buttock up from the front of the leg. So if I came by and pushed on it, which I can't do for all of you, and I certainly won't do for her right now, might hit me. The legs stay active in the pose. You stay present in the pose. You don't just check out. Even something simple as a lunge. Can I bend the right knee deeper? Can I keep my right leg longer? So that no matter what pose we go to from here, this pose is set up and structured to continue to keep us feeling and engaged in it, so we get more from every pose that comes after. Step your right foot back for a moment. Down dog. Remember, down dogs, the arms are nice and long. Legs lift the hips. Head down. Take a breath and step your left foot forward. You might be used to some classes where you go very fast, these vinyasa, the idea of what flowing in yoga practice is. To me, there's many different types of flowing, but there's flowing that is controlled, graceful movement because you're engaged into it at all points, or there's flowing down the whitewater rapids of your own problems and you just kind of throwing yourself and you're getting tossed around, right? You ever been in that work where you're trying to survive and you're so disconnected? What flow do you want? Slow it down, be in control. Then you speed it up. Bend the left knee deep, back leg nice and straight, thigh very strong. Just even here in this lunge, can you engage each leg to help it do its thing, whether it's, can you flex the left thigh to help the knee bend better? And can you flex the right thigh so the leg can lift and be straighter? Your hands can be on blocks, all of that good stuff if you need. But just stay in it. How easy it is to want to get out of this pose. Think about it. I've watched people even in this video, they get up, they look at the pose, they think about it, then they get back in it. Do it and feel it. You'll be all right. You might get a hip cramp or some tiredness. It'll be all right. Down dog. From down dog with the arms straight, bend the knees deeply. Move the belly towards the thigh again. Squeeze the knees together. Don't try to overtuck your neck to do the work. Bend your knees and push your middle and upper back towards your thigh bone. There you go, Micah, better. Use those upper back muscles to push your chest towards your legs with the knees bent. So it's not about your hamstrings now. Now it's about using the strength of your body to do it. Step your left foot up between your hands. Same thing, except you might want to block on this one, on the inside of your leg, or 2 blocks, one underneath each hand. That's fine. Back leg, right leg is straight, lifted, thighs very active. Front leg is starting bent, thighs very active. Think about straightening your left leg, keeping your hands on the floor or block, pushing the left hip back because your left thigh is so strong, it's pulling the leg towards the hip. Twist your shoulder. So you just get this variation of chest to knee pose where you get the legs actively lengthening now. Both legs are straight, hands on the floor. And even if your front leg doesn't completely straighten, you still try to engage it to be focused and flexed in that time. Just because it's hard doesn't mean you check out. Just because it might be easy for you doesn't mean you check out. All of yoga is about awareness about oneself, so you got to stay focused on you. The challenges that you have, the eases you have with it. A few more seconds. Bend your left knee again. Keeping the left knee bent, the right leg straight, so you're back into the lunge that you started with momentarily. Press your rib cage down onto your left thigh more. So actively use your back and core muscles to press your upper body onto your bent knee. Keep pressing your upper body on your bent knee, and then slowly, with awareness, straighten the left leg, stretching the hip back, but don't let your ribs come up off of your thigh. So you're not going to straighten your leg as much, but you're going to bring more of your upper back into the stretch, and it's going to change the stretch. Try not to grip your stomach or grip your neck, areas that are not the work. Bend your left knee again. Pull the ribs down, pull the chest onto the thigh, very firm. All the way towards the knee, so it's like you're trying to touch your collarbone to your knee joint. And then straighten the leg again, slowly. Don't even get it perfectly straight, but keep more of your upper back pushing down. Keep more of your chest connected. The pose doesn't have to be perfectly straight legs. It has to be active you. Yoga is about engaging you into the pose. So how much more can you engage in? Bend the left knee. Both palms flat to the floor. Step your left foot back to down dog, please. Okay. That's a lot. Any pain? Just cramping. Take a step with your right foot forward, up between the hands. Back leg nice and active. Strong flexed leg, so you're not just pushing the knee. Make the quad itself work. Might feel like you're giving it a cramp over time. Same thing on your front right leg. Flex that muscle between your knee and your hip, that quad, and when you straighten the leg, use that muscle to push the bone and hip back. I know, Mike, it's exhausting, buddy. You got this. This is like yoga leg day. Straighten that leg, Ryan. Straighten that right leg, using that muscle to push the leg and hip back so the knee moves. And just breathe into it. Okay. Cramps. You're currently out of pain. Over your hand.
Yeah.
Just another random fear. Bend the right knee again. Now, it's not going to be just as much about the leg, but your upper body. So push your upper torso from your hips to your chest bone down onto the thigh. Draw your nose towards your shin again. Push your collarbone towards your knee. So even with the knee bent, activate the upper back into this. And then slowly straighten the right leg just a little bit at a time, because you don't want your chest to pop up. Keep your upper body engaged and recognize where the point is where it wants to fall out of the pose, and just challenge and then work right there. I would rather people practice their yoga poses in ways and modify them where you can stay more, keep more of your body and self in the pose than just doing one part really hard and nothing else is engaged. And it looks pretty. That's not going to be helpful to them. What do you want to do? Nice deep breath. Bend your right knee. Again, rib cage down. Chest pushes down on the thigh. Collarbone stretches for knee. Nose comes towards the shin with the knee deeply bent. Engage your body to stretch into this, and then stretch the right leg straight again. Just a little. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. You're moving it that way. But now you're moving it with more of your body engaged. It changes the feeling. It changes the perception of it. You learn something about how your leg affects your back affects your hip. All right. Bend the right knee. Step the feet back into downward dog, please. So here, just in downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Done this many times, not just in this class, but probably in your practice. Take a breath and feel what's different from this pose to the last. You might be tired. You might feel like you can move something more or less. Is this pose easier? Are you taking this as an opportunity to rest? And when you rest in poses, do you disconnect? Stay connected to what you're doing, regardless if this is easier or not. No one else can do any of this for you, so. Step your right foot up between your hands. Right knee stays bent. Bend the right knee even deeper. Keep moving it above the heel. Spin your left heel in so your left toes point out to the side. Take your right elbow onto your right knee, your left hand onto your left hip. Keep the right knee deeply bent. Bend it even deeper. Sit your hips down into the pose. Good point. So your right elbow on your right knee, left hand on your left hip. Roll your left hip towards the ceiling. Roll your left ribs towards the ceiling. And then we're not even going to take the arm fully into the pose of side angle. What this is can we get the hips to work deeper into it and use our legs and upper body to help kind of get more out of that work. So are your legs flexed like they were in every other pose we've been doing? Or are you trying to do it with your shoulder, your neck, and your low back? Flex your right thigh, that large muscle between your knee and the hip, the same thing we've been doing, and bend the knee deeper so the hip sits down. Flex your left thigh, the straight leg, and push the thigh bone back to the world behind you. Not your knee, but the whole muscle that goes along your leg up to your hip. Flex your buttocks. Tuck your hips under. There you go. And how much work can you do just from your legs to feel like you can lift your chest? So don't throw your shoulders, don't twist your neck, but can you work your legs? And as the hips go down, keep lifting your abdomen up and back. So you get the full pelvic abdominal effect of the pose. The challenge here that I'll offer, if you really want to go for it, is your right thigh must be parallel to the floor. So your hip is not above your knee. And that's going to take a while, but that's what you're aiming for, is that hip to come down to the degree that thigh bone is perfectly level. My teacher would jokingly say he was going to put a marble on my thigh and make sure it didn't roll anywhere. He didn't, not that I remember. Take both hands to the floor near the right foot. Step the right foot back into down dog again. Step your left foot forward. So with the left foot forward, up between your hands, the left knee deeply bent. Spin your right heel in, turning your toes out to the side. Take your left elbow to the knee. Right hand to your right hip. Don't worry, and just roll the hip up a little bit, lift your chest up, and then start working your legs more. Already see how much that left knee has straightened just by you trying to come up out of the pose. Flex that left thigh, give it a cramp, and stretch that thigh into the bend of the knee. That right leg, flex deeply, stretch down to the foot, and push the leg back. And then tuck your buttocks, flex your glutes, and tuck your glutes under you more. And just work on the legs. See what changes happen in your upper back and body as you just work on your legs. Come on, try it. Bend that knee. Step a little wider, dear. Remember, the challenge is to ultimately get that thigh bone level. So if that means you have to step wider and work a little harder, so be it. Flex your right thigh. Now flex your left thigh. There you go. Don't do it with your face. A few nice deep breaths. Challenge yourself to bend that knee a little more. Step a little wider if you need to. Flex those glutes, Micah. Tuck your hips under, bud. And notice every time you might try to do a suggestion, how much your head, neck wants to wiggle around and do it for you. That's doing stuff that's not helpful. That's wasting your energy and your time. Hands down to the floor. Down dog. Even pay attention to how much other stuff you're trying to do between just taking your hands down and down dog. What else did you do on the way there that's not the work? It's okay. There's no judgment about what you do, but you should be aware of what you do and why you do it. Take a break. Did you come down to your knees and sit there for a while and think about it? Like, what's the benefit to you from that? Go ahead, come down out of the pose, turn over and lay on your back. Be aware of what you want to do and how you want to get there. Mr. Iyengar would say all the subconscious thought that isn't beneficial to us happens to us when we don't pay attention to what we're doing. Especially in the yoga practice, you move from one pose to the other, you should be paying attention to what you do, even getting towards that next pose. All right, bend both knees. So with both knees bent, both feet flat on the floor, cross your right ankle over your left thigh. Draw your left leg towards your body and grab the back of your left thigh with both hands. Grab the back of your left thigh with both hands. Bend the elbows, pulling the leg towards your body. So you stretch that right hip. Both hands grab the back of your left thigh. It's really better to grab near the knee than your butt or your hamstring itself. Grab the back side of your left knee to really help the stretch. And then just let the left leg relax. Use the arms to pull it in. Try to relax your shoulder and neck. Pay attention to all the areas of your body that's working. It's trying to flex or push. It's not what the pose is right now. To me, it's a good sign, or it's a good way to learn all the tension you put into your body when you're doing things that's unnecessary. Helps break a lot of tension habits, stress habits. Now, feel free to stay in this version of the pose, but if you want to try for the next little step past that, if you can stay with what you've got now, you can do the next step. So stretch your left leg up, keep your ankle, keep your thigh. Don't change what you've been doing, add to it. Keep your focus. So with your left leg straight up, if you can reach up and grab your left toes or use a strap around your foot to then pull on the leg, do so. But if you can't reach your foot and don't have a strap or a scarf, you can just keep the hands grabbing the back of the knee and get you a stretch. And it's very hard to grab the foot. You may not. You may just hold on the back of your leg for dear life and just let the leg and hip stretch all you want. If you can't grab the toes, don't try to. Don't grab your calf. Don't grab your pant leg. It's either toes or back of leg, one of the two. My teacher would say, if you can't do what we've asked, then why are you trying to do something midway? If we wanted you to do it half-assed, we would have asked you to do it half-assed. Good, Chaya. Good. Nice, Lena. Good moderation, Micah. Stretch that hip. Sumati Vikram House, working hard. Nice job, everybody. All right, switch your legs. Cross your left ankle over your right thigh. Draw your right knee to you. Grab the back of your right leg at the knee with both hands. Just use the arms to open the hip. If you want to do the next part, if you can do it in the same way with the same focus, stretch your right leg up, reach up, grab your foot. You can use a strap if the leg is straight. But again, if you can't grab the foot, just use the leg. Work where you are. Don't try to force something that isn't you. Work on what you've got right now. Work on your focus of keeping your hips moving, your legs active, your arms helping draw the body into it, relaxing your neck. All right, drop the legs, stretch your legs out, have Savasana for a few moments. If you'd like something under your head or neck, now's the time to do it. Let your arms relax, legs relax. Let your eyes close. With each deep breath in, slow breath out. Get a chance to connect to, process, and work through everything that you've done. And if you're like me, when I first started in my yoga practice, when I got to this part, I just wanted to crash out, disconnect. That defeats the purpose of the whole last hour, to give you insight into you into how you make your life better, different, how you create, or use what you've done here to do better outside of here, right? Your yoga practice doesn't just stay on the mat. It's how you live your life after this, whether physically, mentally, or emotionally. So with each deep breath in, slow breath out, my friends, don't just blank the mind, because the only blank mind is a dead one. But feel your body, feel what changed for you. No judgment, no critique. But take in all the work you've done over the last hour. And feel what's going on in the body so that you know if any of this work was beneficial to you for what you want in your life, what you need to create in your life, so that you can do it more, you can carry it forward, and continue to grow, even off the mat. That's what makes yoga not just an exercise, but a lifestyle, way of being, not just a thing to do. And rest until I ring the bell, and enjoy the fruits of your yogic practice. Bend your knees, roll your body to the side. On an exhale, press your palms into the floor and slowly up you come. All right. Until we meet again, namaste. All right. Stop the recording here.